Can you all hear me, guys? Can you all see me, guys? Can you all hear me? Okay. Okay, my dear friends, here starts your Inter CA GST marathon in 100% English. And we start, my dear friends, with one of the most beloved topics, that is exemptions. Okay. The first service, my dear friends, is healthcare service. In healthcare service, it's extremely important to understand that there are three healthcare service providers. One is a clinical establishment like hospitals, nursing homes. Then there is authorized medical practitioner who is basically a practicing doctor from its own clinic, right? And the third is paramedics, which includes nursing home, physiotherapists, and my dear friends, okay, lab assistants. Now they often give service to whom? To the patient. Now what kind of service is defined as healthcare service, my dear friends? Very simple. Something that can be diagnosed, treated, or it can be taken care of, right? Majorly about illness, injury, deformity, abnormality, or pregnancy. More importantly, my dear friends, you need to take care of this word, and that is, it needs to be a recognized system of medicine. It can be yoga, allopathy, homeopathy, and in South majorly there is Siddha and there is also Unani, right? So if they mention any of these and thereafter they mention it's a recognized system of medicine, what you will do is you will write it is exempt. Okay. But my dear friends, in case it says that okay, something like a Reiki, it is not a recognized system of medicine, in that case it is definitely, my dear friends, taxable. Okay. Now the important thing that you need to really take care of here is these three notes, right? Pathological labs, service by the way of pathological labs is exempt, right? Because it comes into diagnosis, right? Terminally ill patients, so here the word that they have used is palliative care for terminally ill patients, that is bedridden patients, right? So your care is being taken care of, so we also have care, right? Perfect. And hence it is exempt. And last that recently has been added to the list is ART and IVF, that is assisted reproductive technology or in vitro fertilization. Even that is included in the definition of healthcare service, and hence, my dear friends, even that is exempt. Okay. Clearly, my dear friends, healthcare service includes transportation of patient, right? And initially this exemption was only limited to the one who was basically clinical establishment. If they are providing any service like this, it will be exempt. But recently, my dear friends, they have said that we want to extend this scope by even involving private ambulance service providers. Yani, for example, if I have my ambulance, I can actually give service where I'm helping the hospitals, okay, and saving lives particularly, right? In that case, even that service is a healthcare service and it will be exempted, my dear friends, right? Acha. In this, I often point out that whenever you are doing transportation of patient, it is definitely, my dear friends, exempt. But when the same comes down to transportation of a dead person, then in that case, understand it is not a supply. It is not a supply under section 7 subsection 2, my dear friends. Okay, perfect. Next, my dear friends, preservation of stem cells, it is taxable. Biomedical treatment operators for waste treatment facility, again, it is recently taxable. But more than that, I feel this has more chances of coming in the exam, and that is room rent. Now understand, if the room rent is up to 5,000, it is exempt. If it is more than 5,000, it's extremely expensive. People can't afford it, and only rich people can afford it. Hence, it is taxable. But understand, when it comes to rooms like ICU, ICCU, NICU, या फिर CCU, these beds are any which way is extremely expensive, and hence government has specifically told that okay, doesn't matter what the monetary limit is, this beds will always be exempt, my dear friends. Okay. Acha. Remember one thing, my dear friends, we all know that hospital giving service to patient will clearly be a healthcare service, but also understand there are times where they hire senior doctors like neurosurgeon, cardiac surgeon, who work on okay patient to patient basis, and they basically charge consultancy fee. What about that? So that consultancy charges also, my dear friends, is included in the definition of healthcare service, and hence the entire chain where the doctor is giving service to hospital is giving more infrastructure facilities to the patient, all of that is, my dear friends, exempt, and exempt. Acha, majorly what they ask in question is this: food related adjustments. So whenever hospital provides food to admitted patients, understand what generally people land up making a mistake is often about the fact that okay, they will just write exempt or taxable, but that's not correct, my dear friends. Okay, that's not correct, because you will have to categorically state that is it for example, if it's exempt, then why is it exempt? Because it's a composite supply. Okay, there is clearly healthcare service which is an exempt supply, and food service, catering service, which is a taxable supply. But since the principal supply is healthcare service, it is exempt, my dear friends. Okay, perfect. Yes, food to doctor is also taxable, beta. Absolutely correct. Yes, beta. But Koshi, I will rather ask you to whatever your choice is. If you want to attend now, you can attend now. You can also attend the one which we did yesterday. Okay. Next, my dear friends, okay, is very simple. Okay, and that is, my dear friends, with respect to education service. Now, education service, my dear friends, please understand, right from preschool to school to higher secondary school, my dear friends, it is exempt. Also, then when you graduate into a college where you get a degree, right, then you also do something like a CA, right, because you are khatro ke khiladi. Okay, then in that case, my dear friends, understand, even an institution that gives degree is exempt. Okay, because it falls under the definition of education institution, my dear friends. Then comes Maritime Training Institute. That is also considered as, my dear friends, an education institution, and hence it is exempt, my dear friends. And then comes ITIs and ITCs affiliated with NCVT and SCVT, or modular employable skill course. Even that, my dear friends, is exempt. Two things that I want to categorically mention. One is with respect to, right, those institutes that gives degree which is recognized by law. Which law? Indian law. Indian law is exempt, foreign law is taxable. Also, in case of IIM, remember, courses up to 1 year is a short duration course not recognized by IIM Act, hence okay, it's taxable, because in a course which is less than 1 year, you land up getting a certificate and not a degree, hence it is taxable. If it is more than 1 year, clearly you get a degree and not a certificate. It is recognized by IIM Act, and hence it is exempt, my dear friends. Okay, also remember, preschools are also called as Anganwadis in villages. These Anganwadis are places where they are provided a meal and they are also provided education, and which is why okay, they are also considered as preschools, but preschools in villages, even they are considered okay, education institution, and hence whatever fee do they charge, it is exempt, my dear friends. Okay, now this is something that I want to categorically mention, because something around this can easily be asked in the exam, my dear friends. Okay, central board, state board, national board of exams, right, all the three. Understand very categorically, my dear friends, if you are conducting any exam here, right, then to that extent your service is exempt. And to provide this service, you have taken some input service, right, like online testing, result publication, or admit card, question paper. Understand, my dear friends, all of that is also exempt. Are you getting it? Yes, that's it. So remember this can be asked in the exam, because it's an amendment which is a tricky amendment, and okay, you need to be taken care of. Okay, next, my dear friends, is with respect to services like accreditation to an institute or a professional, right? This service has nothing to do with education, and hence it is taxable, right? So basically, accreditation means, like, for example, if someone is telling me that okay, so these institutes also have the power to accredit someone, that you are an institute that can give degrees, right, degrees of doctors. So for that they have to pay fees to these institutes, right? So such kind of accreditation is taxable in nature. Okay, absolutely. Next, my dear friends, is very simple. Services provided by education institution, okay, to student, faculty, staff. Now listen, there are three categories of students. One is an ex-student, one is a current student, one is a prospective student. all the three cases it is exempt, right? Ex student ko if you give your migration certificate, it is exempt. Okay, current student ko clearly you are giving any service, I repeat, any service. Okay, it can be education, it can be other than education, it can be anything, my dear friends. It has to be exempt, right? So for current student, faculty, staff, you give any service, it has to be exempt. You just have to be an education institution, that's it. An education institution may, okay, please understand, my dear friends, all of the above cases are covered. So make sure that you remember them very well. Okay, perfect. Whatever doubts, if you have beta any, please make sure that you write it on the WhatsApp. All of them will be solved by tomorrow. Okay, done. And also remember prospective student here. So obviously here, what kind of amount will I charge to a prospective student? Something like a fee for conducting exams. Now in that case, definitely, my dear friends, it is exempt. Okay, done. Next, my dear friends, is service provided to education institution. Very important. Here it's extremely important to understand which kind of education institution is actually the recipient, right? So for example, if you're providing any 5 services like what? Transportation, security, cleaning, housekeeping, catering. Now there is a story that can really help you remember these 5 exemptions. What is that story? Black grasshopper. What is that story? Very simple. So for example, students these days, kids these days, they had exams in the school. Now they did not eat anything, so they were anxious. But finally, how did they go to the school? In a bus. So there is transportation. Obviously in the bus there will be security, right? Because these days anything can happen to the kids. Next, they write exams, they come home and they start hogging food, right? That is catering service. And uske baad, my dear friends, since they are kids, okay, input would result into output, and which is why, my dear friends, clearly, okay, there will be cleaning service and housekeeping service that needs to be taken into consideration, right? So there is transportation, security, catering, cleaning, housekeeping. All these 5 services, if you are giving to whom? Preschool se leke high school. Preschool se leke high school, my dear friends, then definitely in that scenario it will be exempt. So if you provide these services to something like an ICAI that actually gives a degree, it is taxable. Okay. Next, other than these 5 services, if you provide to preschool or high school, it will be taxable. For example, Oberoi Builders is providing renting of a own property service to them. It will be taxable, my dear friends. Okay. Also remember, my dear friends, categorically that if you are providing security, cleaning, housekeeping service, then it better should be inside the campus. Only then it will be exempt. If it is outside the campus, then it will be taxable. If it is outside the campus, then it will be taxable, my dear friends. Okay. So please make sure that you are very well aware of this. Okay, done. Next, my dear friends, is very simple, and that is, okay, with respect to online education journal. So if you are giving online education journal service to those institutions that actually give degree, right? In that case, my dear friends, it will be exempt. Okay, because understand, something like an ICI, something like an IIM, IITs, only they will purchase online education journals, because in schools you can't even finish the syllabus which is in the textbook. You got immediates, right? So there's no question that they will purchase any of these, and which is why it is exempt only exactly to that institution that actually will end up purchasing it, right? Perfect. Now this one, in the third case, my dear friends, what they have mentioned is any education institution. Which is that service that you are providing to any education institution which is exempt? Very simple. Okay, any service in relation to conducting exams. Yes, any service in relation to conducting exams, my dear friends. Okay, now understand, in exam they will not categorically state that Mr. X has given service in relation to exam, okay, to Ryan International School. They will not mention that. What they will mention is that Mr. X gave paper setting service, right? Yeah, paper checking service, yeah, renting of hall service. All of these will be mentioned. If any of this is mentioned, you need to remember, okay, Karan sir actually said this. It was actually in the notes, right? And this is service in relation to conducting exams. Recipient can be anyone. It will be, my dear friends, exempt, exempt, and exempt, because this is the kind of service that across all the education institutes do require. So it's exempt for everyone, as simple as that, my dear friends. Here there is a very amazing tricky question that needs to be taken into consideration, where students land up making a mistake, and I really want you all to answer it. Let's see if you can crack it. So for example, Mr. X supplies question paper, right, to Orion International School. What will happen in this case? Will it be taxable or will it be exempt? Tell me, come on. Come on, guys. Correct. It will be taxable, my dear friends. The reason it will be taxable is because it supplies question paper, right? Question paper is actually goods. And what we just saw here was a service. So please remember that, my dear friends. Actually, there is a question in my OCOQ book, right, which points out this. I've clearly, just given the adjustment here itself so that you don't have to go through the entire question. Okay. So please remember, if something like this pops out, you need to be extremely aware. You can't say, sir, question paper no service in relation to service nahi hai. It's not service in relation to exams, my dear friends. It's goods in relation to conducting exams. Hope you understand that difference. Okay. Nitty-gritties, but needs to be taken into consideration. Okay. Next is private coaching. Is taxable. Clearly, the course that I sell to you is actually inclusive of GST. You have no clue about it because it's inclusive, right? I bear the brunt of it. I don't charge you expressly. Okay. Next, my dear friends, is with respect to boarding school. In case of boarding school, my dear friends, it's very particular to understand that even this is a composite supply where we are providing education and accommodation service, where obviously the principal supply is education service, and education service being exempt, the entire value will be exempt, my dear friends. Hope that makes sense. Okay, perfect. Next, my dear friends, here campus recruitment service is taxable because it has nothing to do, my dear friends, with education service. Acha, this one is actually an interesting conversation. Let's have it. Acha, there is an education institution. It's providing catering service to student, faculty, staff. Now understand, I've categorically mentioned that if there's any education providing any service to student, faculty, staff, understand, my dear friends, it will be exempt, and hence it is exempt. Simple. But my dear friends, when it comes to outsource caterer giving catering service to preschool, and then preschool giving the same to its student, faculty, staff, okay, this is definitely exempt because here an education institution is providing service to its student, faculty, and staff, right? But this is also exempt. Why? Because here you are actually providing one of those 5 services, okay, whose story we just made up, and here you are providing it to preschool se leke high school. So my dear friends, even this is exempt. But remember one thing very clearly. Okay, here if you are providing the same service to an institution that actually gives degree or ITIs or ITCs, it will be, my dear friends, taxable, right? Because it is exempt only to preschool se leke high school, right? But if they are providing these services to student, faculty, staff, still it will be exempt. Why? Because any education institution providing, okay, any service to student, faculty, staff, it will be exempt. I hope that makes sense, my dear friends. Okay, done. Acha, please make sure that you are very well aware of this service. So if you want to give any sports coaching, the structure that you need to actually be is a charitable institution. You cannot be anyone, because if you are anyone, partnership firm, HUF, sole proprietor, doesn't matter, it will be taxable. So if you want that you are running an academy that is not charging GST, you need to be a charitable institution. Second is, if you are an individual, a sole proprietor, and if you are teaching arts or culture to someone, again it will be exempt, right? Perfect. Next, my dear friends, we are hopping up to agriculture and agriculture produce, right? Very important exemption. They often ask here, few adjustments here and there are certainly asked, my dear friends. Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Perfect. Black grasshopper, what is your real name? I would love to know that, right? Coming up with some crazy names, right? Yeah, thanks a lot for the participation. This is great. Please share it with your friends as much as you can, so that every one of you all can really make the most of it. Naeem. Okay, Naeem. Okay, my dear friends, when it comes to, my dear friends, agriculture and agriculture produce, please make sure that here it's not just about farming, it's not just about kheti badi, if you've heard that word anytime from Modi ji. Okay, yes, in this case, my dear friends, you also include rearing of all life forms, right? And what do you mean by that? It means sericulture, pisciculture, floriculture, and here you have horticulture. अरे हॉर्नी नहीं है बेटा, इसको करेक्ट करो, इट्स हॉर्टिकल्चर है, इडियट. You know, my DTV wala is just like an idiot only. Anything he writes, right? Okay, it's horticulture, my dear friends. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, but clearly rearing of horses is not allowed. Okay, rearing of horses, my dear friends, okay, is taxable. So whenever you feel there is anything in relation to horses, tabdak, it is taxable, my dear friends. Do remember that very well. Next is, it's extremely important for you to understand what is an agriculture produce and what is an agriculture. What is an agriculture produce and what is an product made out of agriculture produce. So for example, if there is sugarcane, it's an agriculture produce. It actually grows from the land, right? But we can process it and make it jaggery. Coffee beans, we can process it and make it a coffee powder. Tea leaves into tea powder, and whole gram rajma into split and dehusked pulses. Now that, my dear friends, is an important information. Why? Because of this exemption right here. Here they have mentioned a few processes, but two conditions that they clearly attached here is that all these processes should not hamper the essential characteristics of agriculture produce, and it should make sure that it is marketable for primary market only, right? Yes. So here often they land up breaching one of the conditions, and that's what makes it taxable. Something like, so a question can be asked where they say that sugar is being processed into jaggery. Now you know that clearly the primary characteristics have been gone, they have vanished, and which is why, my dear friends, that makes it taxable. The next, my dear friends, is clearly something that's noteworthy, and that is that there was this guy called Dukhya Das. Now Dukhya Das is actually someone who was doing bulk packaging work, where he was packaging work, where he was basically doing what? He was converting 1 kg, a gram of wheat into let's say 100 grams of wheat. And why was he doing that? So that people in the city, so that his clients, his customers in the city mall can actually purchase it, because that's the quantity they demanded for. Now understand, he is doing this packing activity for what? For selling it to the primary market? No, he's selling it in the mall, that is secondary market, right? So that needs to be taken into consideration, my dear friends, whether it's primary market or secondary market, right? That's where they actually make that's where they actually, my dear friends, make a mistake of understanding where the situation actually is hinting. So primary market and essential characteristics needs to be intact, right? Perfect. Next, my dear friends, is very simple. One more thing that they generally land up doing, which actually confuses students a lot, is fumigation. So if fumigation is done in the agriculture produce, that means in the farm, then it is exempt. But the same fumigation, if it is done on agriculture produce but in a warehouse, initially it was exempt, but now it is taxable. So where is exactly the fumigation done? Please make sure you take a note of that. Otherwise you will land up in a soup. Okay. Yes. Next, my dear friends, loading, unloading, storage, packaging, warehousing. Once again, loading, unloading, storage, warehousing, packaging of agri produce is exempt, but of product made out of agri produce, it is taxable. So loading of wheat, jawar, bajra is exempt, but loading of flour, loading of potato chips, loading of tomato ketchup is taxable, right? Acha, what about rice? So rice ke liye they have specifically given an exemption, right? Where loading, unloading, storage, warehousing, packaging of rice will be, my dear friends, exempt, exempt, and exempt. Just make sure that you take a note of that, right? And that is the only exemption that rice is getting in the entire agriculture produce. Okay. Also remember, even while you are miling paddy into rice, right? Paddy actually is an agriculture produce. Rice is a product made out of agriculture produce. Right? So here clearly the essential characteristics have gone, and this is one of the favorite adjustments, my dear friends. Right? One of the favorite adjustments that it has had. Clearly it will be what, my dear friends? Taxable. Okay. Next, my dear friends, that I really want you all to understand is with respect to commission agent, right? So commission agent, he can purchase or sell agriculture produce, but it's extremely important, right, that it is agri produce that he's selling or purchasing and not product made out of agri. So potatoes exempt, right? If he's selling tomatoes, exempt, but potato chips taxable. Rice taxable. Why taxable? Because only and only exemption in relation loading, unloading, storage, packaging, warehousing is exempt with respect to rice, but here it won't be, right? So make sure you mention that. Okay. One more very important and tricky adjustment here happens to be artificial insemination of livestock. This generally happens, what is that there are two different species, okay, that basically asked to mate. Okay, there are processes done, and something like a tiger will be, mated with a lioness. A lion will be mated with a tigress, and there will be something like a TN or a liger, a new species will be born, right? So all of that is fine, is exempt if you are providing these kind of services. But if you are providing these services for horses, you are gone. It is taxable, and it ends there. Okay? Achha, one more thing I wanted to actually take into consideration is that renting of agro machinery or vacant land is exempt, but if you rent this to whom? To a stud farm where you are actually rearing horses, it is taxable. Achha, also, my dear friends, remember one thing very clearly. Okay, this is something really interesting that you can actually come across. So for example, here, my dear friends, okay, there is Mr. X, Mr. Y, and there is a farmer. So Mr. X has given warehousing service to Mr. Y. Mr. Y has given warehousing service to farmer. Now you need to tell me which service is exempt and which is taxable. Clearly, my dear friends, this is taxable and this is exempt. Okay. Why? Because Mr. X had no clue what will Mr. Y do with this premises. He had a warehouse. He gave it on rent to Mr. Y. Now Mr. Y must have found a customer in a farmer, right? He could have found a customer in anything. So now it's very important to understand that Mr. X is not giving service to farmer. No. Mr. Y is. So Mr. Y के लिए वो हो जाएगा exempt, and for this guy it will clearly be, my dear friends, taxable. Okay, so it's a tricky question actually. One of your case study based MCQs it was really asked. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that really helps you in every single way. Okay, done. Okay, yes. So here, my dear friends, we're done with agriculture service. Okay. Okay. With respect to, my dear friends, services by the way of giving loan, advances and deposits. Okay. If you are one of the lenders, make sure, my dear friends, one big mistake that students land up actually doing here is that the loan amount, which is repaid by the borrower to the lender, they actually, land up calling it what? What do they land up calling it? They land up calling it exempt. But no, it's not exempt, actually it's money, and since money is neither goods nor service, GST shall not apply. Okay. Acha, when it comes to 10,000, my dear friends, here it is a processing fees and it will be subject to GST, right? And third, my dear friends, is interest, which will clearly be exempt under entry number 27. So understand, if there is interest or discount on loans, advances, deposit, it is exempt, except this, everything is taxable. Except this, everything is taxable. Also remember that credit card company, agar wo interest lagata hai, then in that case, that interest will also be taxable. Okay, yes. Next is, my dear friends, foreign exchange service. With respect to foreign exchange service, my dear friends, it's extremely important to understand what is happening here. So there is a forex dealer, who is giving this service to a recipient. Let's say, for example, if the recipient wants $1,000, $1 is, let's say, 70 rupees. He lands up giving 70,700. Now understand one thing, my dear friends. Here you will have two parts, 70,000 and 700. 70,000 is money, neither goods nor service, and 700, my dear friends, is commission, and commission, my dear friends, is taxable or exempt, is clearly, my dear friends, what depends on what kind of recipient is the bank or forex dealer really dealing with. Is it, my dear friends, bank or a forex dealer? If yes, then that will be exempt. If it is general public, my dear friends, then that will be taxable. Just make sure that you are very well aware of that कि भैया रिसिपेंट कौन है आपका, समझा? ओके, ओके बेटा, whatever makes you feel confident, please do that. nahi, I'm sure anything and everything will help you. Okay, next, my dear friends, is service by the way of giving on hire. Here it's extremely important to understand, my dear friends, that let's say if Neeta Travels is giving service of motor vehicle, now understand that the seating capacity here is more than 12 passengers. Recipient here should be state transport unit, it will be exempt. If there is an electric vehicle given to a local authority, again the passenger capacity is more than 12 passengers, again it will be exempt. Okay, remember one thing very well. They generally ICI lands up confusing students by saying that electric vehicle is not given to local authority but to state transport unit, and normal motor vehicle which actually runs on fuel, right, is given to local authority. So they will just exchange the recipients keep the passenger capacity more than 12 only, it will be 15, 20, whatever. But they will generally change the recipients, right? Please make sure that you are well aware कि किसका कौन सा recipient है, which recipient is actually okay where. That's it. Also remember here, more than 12 passengers is spoken about, but when you actually check, okay, what 17.5 ka block credit, there my dear friends, they've clearly mentioned about 13 passengers including driver. Okay, yes. Acha, the same motor vehicle, my dear friends, if you are going into GTA, again it is exempt. Okay. Next, if you are giving a motor vehicle on hire to a transporter, what is that transporter exactly doing? He is actually transporting student, faculty, staff, okay, from preschool to high school. So he is basically giving this service to whom? Preschool se leke high school, anyone, right? Then in that case, my dear friends, since this is exempt, this will also be exempt. But let's say, for example, if Anil Transporter is giving this service to, let's say, ICI, will this service be exempt? No, it will be taxable. And hence, this service will also be taxable. So clearly the exemption out here depends on this service. कि आपने ये सर्विस किसको दिया, you have given this service to whom, that needs to be taken into account, my dear friends. That makes hell lot of a difference. Okay, perfect. Next, my dear friends, is okay, something like this. Here I would specifically ask you all to focus on this, that if there is circus, dance, award functions, right, there is an recognized event, or there is other than recognized event like IPL or a planetarium, it is exempt only if the ticket price is up to 500. If it is more than 500, let's say 501, it will be taxable. And these two out here do not have any monetary limit. So remember, here even it is of 5 rupees or 5 lakh rupees, it is both exempt, exempt and exempt. That's it, my dear friends. Okay. Next, my dear friends, is okay, there are 4 modes in which transportation can be done. It can be goods, it can be passenger, doesn't matter at all, right? Achha, when it comes to road, my dear friends, here specifically, okay, they have mentioned that all other cases except GTA and courier agent is, my dear friends, exempt. So when it comes to GTA, when it comes to courier agent, it is taxable. Achha, all other cases, my dear friends, which cases generally land up coming here, right? Something like yeah, a manufacturer or a trader who has his own vehicle, right? So let's say HUL, which has thousands of trucks, he is not registered as a GTA, he is registered as a manufacturer under GST law. It's just that he happens to have this motor vehicle that really helps him transport goods from his factory to his distributors, right? Or something like a bullock cart, or something like a hath gadi. Hath gadi is basically the man cart, okay, the cart that is run by man, right? All of that. Also remember, in case of GTA, my dear friends, if you are purchasing a national permit, it is exempt. Government won't charge GST on that, right? Achha, in case of air, remember, my dear friends, okay, I'll tell you a fact. Till now, 98% of import actually happens through water only, because it's, again, even in today's times, it is one of the cheapest mode of transport. Okay, transporting through air is an expensive affair, and which is why when you are importing, right, through air, government said that if you're charging freight, remember, in that case, that freight will be clearly, my dear friends, exempt, because I don't want to make sure that the import where the freight is already very expensive, it becomes even more expensive if I charge GST on that. So whenever you are importing goods, so basically you're bringing goods from a place outside India to custom station in India, in that case, my dear friends, remember one thing very clearly, okay, there will be an exemption given. But apart from that, if you are exporting goods, if you are sending it, okay, in domestic India, let's say from Mumbai to Delhi, Delhi to Agra, all those cases, freight will always be taxable, taxable, taxable. Acha. In case of rail, my dear friends, okay, just remember very clearly, all cases are taxable, right? Nothing is spared. Next is waterways. In case of inland waterways, my dear friends, remember one thing very clearly, it is always going to be exempt, be it transportation of goods or be it transportation of passengers, right? And next is any other case. When I speak categorically about any other case, simple, right? Something like this. So inland waterways is basically what? Waterways which is inside the water bodies which are inside the landmass of India, right? Correct. Like something like a Ganga, right? So if you're going from Haridwar to Hyderabad in Ganga, it is exempt because Ganga is flowing inside India, right? But something like an Arabian Sea or an Indian Ocean or a Bay of Bengal, right? If you're going from, let's say, Maharashtra to, let's say, Tamil Nadu, by crossing literally Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean, that is taxable. Why? Because it is not transportation of goods or passengers through inland waterways, right? Perfect. So something like that. Next, in case of goods, remember, my dear friends, very well. If you are transporting via rail, vessel, or rail, vessel, or GTA, that case will be exempt, exempt, and exempt, right? Now, it's extremely important for you to understand one thing, and that is, my dear friends, that you need to remember the list of these goods, right? And you need to remember that by heart, right? There's a story to that. Let's do that. Okay. So, for example, my dear friends, okay, if something like this lands up happening, where there is a farmer, he wakes up in the morning, he has his milk, he has his food which has less salt, so he puts salt in it, right, in the flour, in the pulses, in the rice, he eats it, and then he goes for his normal daily course, which is basically farming. While he's actually farming, he's sowing seeds, okay, and since he wants that the entire growth becomes fantastic, he also adds organic manure, chemical fertilizer, right? Now understand, while he's actually putting that cow dung with his hands in the land, his hands become dirty. He wants water, but he does not have water because he's in a village. So now, my dear friends, okay, he uses newspaper and magazines to rub it off, right? And then, since there is no TV for entertainment, he uses the same newspaper and magazine to read what's happening in day to day life in India. He realizes there are a lot of man made disasters and natural calamities that have hit mankind. And for that, you need to send relief materials. Now, only one community can now send relief materials here, and that has to be clearly, my dear friends, military. Okay, yes. Now, if you really, remember the story well, you will not miss out on any goods. Trust me on that. Okay. And remember this very well, that this is exempt only via rail, vessel, GTA. If you land up transporting it through air, it is taxable, taxable, taxable. So make sure this is extremely important information that you are well aware. Okay. Next, my dear friends, is transportation of passenger service. Again, here, my dear friends, you have four means of transport: road, rail, water, rail. Okay. Air. Road, rail, water, air. Beta road, rail, water, air. Okay, guys, are you all understanding? I all with me, my dear friends? If yes, then please write yes in the chat box. Come on, I'm sure y'all can do this, guys. Okay. Okay, my dear friends. Okay. Here, very simple. In case of road, my dear friends, you have rickshaws, you have meter taxis, which is exempt. But my dear friends, when I talk about radio taxis, now that is taxable, right? When I talk about buses, my dear friends, now it depends whether it's contract carriage or stage carriage. If it is contract carriage, my dear friends, it's very simple. If it's AC, it's taxable. If it's non-AC, it's exempt, right? When it comes to, my dear friends, stage carriage, AC, it will be taxable. Non-AC, it will be exempt, right? Now, what is contract carriage, my dear friends? Very simple. Here, there is point-to-point travel, right? So this guy will actually help my employees. Okay, basically he'll take them from his home, okay, from residence to house, and pick them up from house to the residence, and residence to house to office, office to house. As simple as that, my dear friends. Okay, yes. In this scenario, my dear friends, it's extremely important to understand that something like Anita Travels is a classic example of this. Stage carriage mein, if you have seen BST buses from Mumbai, that's a classic example. Here they basically will stop between the points, and hence, my dear friends, it's extremely important to understand that AC will always be taxable. Okay, in stage carriage, non-AC is exempt, but here non-AC is not exempt. Here non-AC, not meant for the purpose of hire charter tourism, is exempt, right? Perfect. If it is for the purpose of hire charter tourism, it is, my dear friends, taxable. And one thing that needs to be taken into consideration is that any service which here clearly that I have mentioned is as exempt, if you provide through ECU, it will be taxable. For example, if you book rickshaw through ECU, it will be, my dear friends, taxable. Okay. In case of air, my dear friends, you really need to understand that air is for rich people, and anything that caters to rich, it will be taxable. Now understand very clearly, my dear friends, okay, that if the service is to or from Northeast India or Bagdogra of West Bengal, now in this scenario, economy class, it will be exempt. In business class, it will be taxable, right? And in any domestic travel, Mumbai to Delhi, Delhi to Bangalore, it will be taxable, because government does not want to, miss out on revenue on this amount, because air tickets are generally expensive than rail. And if you can afford air tickets, you can also afford 5% GST when it comes to economy class. Okay, yes. When it comes to rail, local railway, okay, simple, it is exempt. Second class is exempt, first class is taxable. But when it comes to outstation trains, AC taxable, non-AC exempt, right? And when it comes to metro, mono, tramway, it will always be, my dear friends, exempt, and exempt, because it's a very, it's an important way of commute. Okay, sir, economy class is also taxable. Yeah, absolutely. Everything is taxable, but economy class is exempt only when you are traveling to or from Northeast India and Bagdogra of West Bengal. Okay? Because at the end of the day, it's a flight. Understand that. Next, in case of waterways, my dear friends, you really need to understand that inland waterways is exempt, just like in goods, in passengers also. But also when there is a public transport not predominantly meant for the purpose of tourism, it is exempt. So in question, they will categorically mention whether it's predominantly meant for the tourism or not. Okay, and if they mention something like a shikara or a cruise, it's deemed understood, my dear friends, that it is taxable. Okay, because it is not meant for any other activity apart from tourism. It is tourism, and hence it will be taxable. Okay, yes. Achha. When it comes to, my dear friends, tour operator, it's extremely important for you to understand, my dear friends, that in case of tour operator, the supplier has to be in India. Recipient is a foreigner, and if you land up, booking a tour package for him which is also outside India, then it's going to be exempt. Why? Because the tour package is outside India, recipient is also from outside India. Why will you charge GST on something like that? Why will you burden recipient on that? Not fair. Because the service is not consumed in India, it is not even consumed by a person who is based in India. So let's just leave it. But if it is a tour package fully in India, you will go taxable. If it is partly in India, partly outside India, then you will have to check the number of foreign days divided by the total number of tours, get that percentage of tour package. So if there is 1 lakh ka tour package, out of 10 nights, let's say 7 nights were spent, okay, in Australia, and 3 in, let's say for example, Ahmedabad, then in that case, my dear friends, right, this will be clearly 70,000. But no, you will have to compare it with 50,000, whichever is lower. Okay, remember this very well, my dear friends. Remember this very, very, very well. Okay, that whichever is the lower amount, exemption will apply to that, and the remaining amount, my dear friends, will be taxable, right? So if this happens to be what, 30,000, so 30,000 or 50,000, whichever is lower, and hence 30,000 will be exempt, the remaining amount will be taxable. Okay, next, my dear friends, is with respect to service by the way of charitable trust or religious trust. Here, understand one thing, entity should be registered under 12AA, and they should be a charitable activity. Okay, understand, charitable activity may you just need to remember this part, because this is the most important part that they keep asking. Education or skill development, right? Usme bhi they ask fourth adjustment. Person over the age of 65 in rural area exempt, in urban area taxable. Now when they say over the age of 65, you land up often remembering 65. So to avoid confusion, just write down 66 and above. Okay? So whenever your age is 66 and above, and you are residing in rural area and you want to learn education or skill development by a charitable institution, it is an exempt supply. Next, my dear friends, if you are a charitable trust under 12AB or 12AA, 1023C or 1023 BBA of Income Tax Act 1961, and you are giving a renting service, either renting of rooms, shops, community halls, or Kalyan Mandapam, right, where the limit is clearly up to 999 or 9,999, then in that case, my dear friends, it is exempt. And above this threshold limit, my dear friends, it's clearly taxable. So if they land up writing that the room rent is, my dear friends, 1,000, it will be taxable because it is exempt only up to 999. Hope that makes sense. So remember it that way only. Okay. Yes. Here I'd like to come to RWA service, where you as a society are giving service to your members, or basically residing in your society, and you are collecting monthly maintenance from them. Now if that monthly maintenance exceeds 7,500 per month per apartment, then definitely there will be GST levied on that. Okay. Now it's extremely important to understand that while you are calculating MMC, you need to include all these things, because often they used to do was what, if the MMC, my dear friends, was actually 10,000, they would not send the bill of 10,000. They would rather write, okay, they as in the RWA would rather write MMC as 6,000. Then they would say sinking fund, repairs and maintenance fund, parking fund, and they would basically apportion all of that amount, to these small funds, and reduce the MMC from 10,000 to 6,000 and bring it below 7,500. These kind of games were actually happening. To avoid that, my dear friends, government specifically said that bought nothing doing. While calculating MMC, you will include all of these, but you will make sure that you never include these. That is non-agricultural tax, property tax, water tax, never. Okay, so make sure while you are calculating, you exactly know what to include and what not to include. Okay, correct. Acha, also remember, my dear friends, one thing very categorically, that when it comes to RWA, if it provides service where the MMC is more than 7,500, in that case, my dear friends, your service is taxable. And understand one thing clearly, right? That if your MMC is more than 7,500, in that scenario, my dear friends, obviously it is taxable, right? Now, what you need to take into consideration is that to provide this MMC, there are some inputs, capital goods input service that you are procuring. You will clearly get the ITC of that. Why? Because you are charging output tax. If your output tax would have been exempt, your ITC will also not be allowed. Right? Here I have given few cases where there is the RWA is charged MMC per month per apartment, and the aggregate turnover of the entire society, okay, is mentioned. Now understand, I'll give you one small tip to figure out whether the situation demands taxability or not. Okay, and that is, if both of them actually land up breaching, okay, then it will be taxable. So here it's breaching the 7,500 wala limit, and here it's breaching the 20 lakh wala limit, and which is why clearly it is taxable. Okay, done. So remember this very well, and I hope that makes sense. Okay. Just a second. Okay, public, आ जाओ. Okay. In government service, my dear friends, I will specifically ask you to just remember a couple of them, because that's what generally is what they land up asking, right? Clearly, the first is the recent amendment that has actually happened in the exemption service, and that is Department of Post and Indian Railways providing any service to any recipient. Now, understand, my dear friends, here it will be taxable, and it will be taxable as per FCA. Okay, correct. Next, that needs to be taken into account is with respect to Department of Post, right? Department of Post, my dear friends, okay, is supplying postcard, inland letter, book post, ordinary post service where the envelope paying size is less than 10 grams. In that case, it will be exempt, right? Because it is less than 10 grams, right? So basically, if it is 9 grams, it is exempt. But if it is 10 grams, it will become taxable. Please make a note of that, right? Next, my dear friends, you really need to understand and remember what? Very simple. And that is, hey boss, if you are providing any service to a business entity, okay, and the aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year exceeds the amount, clearly, okay, it will be it does not exceed the amount, clearly it will be exempt supply. But if it exceeds the amount, please make sure that you remember, okay, that if the consideration is up to 5,000, it will be exempt, and if it is more than 5,000, it will be taxable as per RCM. Okay, yes. Achha, also remember, my dear friends, that if CG, SG, UT, LA is providing renting of immovable property service to a registered person, it will be RCM. Okay, yes. There is one important service that you need to take into consideration is that if there is an old age home run by CGSG or charitable trust where the consideration is up to 25,000, right, and the resident agent exceeds 60 or more than 60, basically is a senior citizen, then it will be exempt, my dear friends. Okay, no, you don't have to remember that, Yashvi. Absolutely, you don't need to remember. Okay, also, my dear friends, there is one amazing service that they generally keep on asking is this: if there is any supplier who's either providing pure service or composite supply where the goods component is not exceeding more than 25%, right, clearly it is exempt if you are providing that service which is covered under 243G or 243W of the Constitution of India, right? Yes. And now when you are giving this service, my dear friends, with respect to CGSG, UTLA to someone, understand it is not a supply. Okay, it is not a supply, my dear friends. Okay, because, and this is clearly covered in the chart book. Okay, so make sure that to provide this service, if you are procuring this service, okay, yeah, one is exempt and one is not a supply. Okay, now the other one that is extremely easy and something that they often love to ask is services provided to CGSGUT, okay, under any training program where the total expenditure is met by CGSGUT at least 75% or more. Samjha? So maximum private participation that is allowed is 25%, right? So if that happens, let's say if the expenditure 80% is borne by CGSGUT, then it will be, my dear friends, exempt. If it is 50-50, then it will be taxable. So that is something that they keep often asking, right? Another one that they keep often asking is this. This is their favorite, entry number 11, right? Where they are basically providing pure labor contracts of construction, erection, commissioning or installation of original works pertaining to single residential unit, otherwise than as a part of a residential complex. Now there are three adjustments that they keep asking. Either they will say that pure labor service for repairing works and not original works. So there will be a twist there. Second, either they will say कि original works है but it is not for residential unit but it is for residential complex. Again, it will be taxable. And third is they will say that pure labor service is there for original works, right? but not for residential unit, but for commercial unit. So generally, whenever they ask any of these, there is a tricky aspect to that. Make sure that you hit all of them, and all of them happens to be taxable. Okay. Acha, if CGSG is basically guaranteeing loans, okay, understand, it will be exempt, especially if it is for undertakings of CGSG and UT. Okay. Next, my dear friends, with respect to brand ambassador, with respect to artist, please make sure that if you are a folk या classical wala artist doing musical, dance, theater, which charges up to 1.5 lakhs, it will be exempt. Right. So this is the first condition, this is second condition, and this is the third, and this is the fourth. All of them should be met. Only then exemption will apply. Okay. So if you are doing Western dance, this is not met, taxable. If you are a brand ambassador, not met, taxable. Right. Music, dance, theater नहीं, painting है, sculptor है. 1.5 lakhs के बदले it's 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs, 10 lakhs. Right. Done. अच्छा. Sports related service में please remember, be it player, coach, team, referee, manager, umpire. If they are providing service to recognized sports body, it is exempt. But please make sure that the event is also organized by them. Samjha? If the event is also organized by them, my dear friends, it will be exempt. Next is selector, curator, technical expert, commentator. If they are providing service to recognized sports body, understand, it will be taxable. Because these are clearly not covered in the exemption itself. Acha, with respect to legal service, my dear friends, remember, be it arbitral tribunal, individual advocate, partnership form of advocate, or senior advocate, doesn't matter, my dear friends. Okay. Simple. If a recipient is a business entity, right, and his aggregate turnover does not exceed in the preceding financial year, the current year when they are giving service, it is exempt. If it is more than business, if the aggregate turnover of the business entity in the previous year exceeds threshold limit, it will be RCM. Okay. Second, non-business entity, exempt. Government authority, government entity, CGSG, UTLA, exempt. Okay. So correct. Okay. But only in this case, my dear friends, individual advocate, you need to remember that if individual advocate is providing service to any advocate for that matter, or any partnership firm, then that is exempt. So this is the only and only exemption, my dear friends, where, okay, it falls apart from the other three. Okay. Acha, in miscellaneous exemptions, I will highly recommend you all to do entry number 59, where they talk about services provided by FDM is exempt, but services provided to FDM is taxable. So they generally ask this. Acha, 52 also they land up asking a lot of times. Service by an organizer to any person in respect of business exhibition held outside India, it will be, my dear friends, exempt. But if it is in India, then it will be taxable. Alright. Also, they ask this one a lot of times. Life micro insurance as approved by Insurance Regulatory Authority, okay, having maximum amount cover of 2 lakhs, it is exempt. So please make sure that you see it in the exemption. कि क्या लिखा है, what is written? Is it maximum amount or minimum amount? If it is maximum, then simple exemption will apply. If it is minimum, then it will be taxable. Because here, this scheme is actually only for poor people, where all they have to do is just pay 50 or 100 rupees per year, and they get an accidental insurance, or a life insurance rather, sorry, of 2 lakh rupees. As simple as that. Right? So the premium that they're paying, the maximum amount that their nominee will get is 2 lakh. Got it? Yes. That's it. And here, out of these schemes, remember this, this, and this. All you have to remember is these 3 yojanas, and you are done. Okay. So here, my dear friends, we have clearly conquered. We have conquered, my dear friends, exemptions, and that too, my dear friends, in just 1 hour 15 minutes, right? Lovely.